Chosen one, before we go any further, I need you to pause for a moment. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Because what you're about to hear is not entertainment. It's not coincidence. And it's definitely not random. If you found this message, especially at a time when you've been questioning relationships, connections, loyalty, or why certain people keep leaving your life, this is not by accident. This message carries confirmation, correction, and clarity. And yes, the name will surprise you. Not because it's mysterious, not because it's hidden in a code, but because you've been looking outside when God has been speaking within. Stay with me. Don't skip. Don't rush. This message unfolds layer by layer. Chosen one, let me ask you something. Have you noticed that some conversations feel empty now? That certain friendships feel forced? That relationships you once tolerated suddenly drain you? You didn't become too much. You didn't become arrogant. You didn't lose compassion. You outgrew the version of you that survived on crumbs. God has been quietly shifting your appetite. What once satisfied you now feels shallow. What once excited you now feels heavy. And what once felt safe now feels misaligned. That's not loneliness. That's separation before alignment. God always separates before He connects. Most people think when God wants to connect you with someone, He brings a new person, a new face, a new name, a new season. But chosen one, that's not always how God works. Sometimes the connection He wants for you is not someone you're chasing. It's someone you've been avoiding, or someone you've overlooked, or someone you've misjudged. And sometimes, it's not who you think it is at all. This is where the name begins to surprise you. Listen carefully. God does not connect chosen ones based on chemistry. He does not connect you based on excitement. He does not connect you based on appearance, status, or familiarity. He connects based on assignment. That's why some people feel exciting but destructive, and others feel quiet but stabilizing. That's why some people ignite passion but steal peace, and others protect your spirit but don't feed your ego. Chosen one, God prioritizes purpose alignment over emotional intensity. And this is where many people miss their divine connection. Here's a major confirmation. The person God wants you with will not need to manipulate you. They won't need to pressure you. They won't need to rush you. They won't trigger confusion. They won't activate insecurity. They won't constantly test your worth. Instead, they will feel steady. Not boring. Not dull. But grounded. And here's the part that surprises most chosen ones. They may not be the loudest voice in your life. They may not chase attention. They may not impress others. But they see you clearly. Now listen closely. The name God is highlighting is not always someone new. In many cases, it's someone already in your orbit. Someone who has been consistent. Someone who didn't abandon you when things got heavy. Someone who didn't compete with you, but supported you quietly. And because your past taught you chaos equals love, you may have mistaken peace for lack of interest. That's the surprise. The name feels too simple, too familiar, too calm. But God is not dramatic. He is deliberate. Chosen one, let's address this gently but truthfully. You attracted the wrong people because you were still healing a version of yourself that believed love had to hurt. You were still proving your worth. Still explaining your heart. Still fighting to be chosen. But hear this clearly. God does not want you with someone who needs convincing. He wants you with someone who recognizes. Recognition doesn't argue. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't play games. This is how you know it's from God. You won't feel anxious waiting for replies. You won't feel the need to perform. You won't feel afraid to speak your truth. You'll feel seen without over-explaining, heard without raising your voice, protected without asking. And that might feel unfamiliar at first. Peace can feel strange to a nervous system trained in survival. But don't confuse unfamiliar with wrong. Chosen one, this is where many of you feel the inner resistance. Because if we're honest, you had a type, a pattern, a familiar energy. A look, a personality, a way someone made you feel in the beginning. And for a long time, you thought that type was preference. But in reality, it was conditioning. Your type was shaped by what you had to survive, by what you had to tolerate, by what you learned to mistake for love. That's why God is disrupting it. Your old type was often intense, emotionally charged, unpredictable, magnetic but unstable. They made your heart race, but not in peace. They kept you guessing, but not grounded. They created highs and lows that felt like passion, but were actually stress. And because you lived in survival mode for so long, your nervous system learned to associate chaos with connection. So when God brings someone different, someone steady, someone emotionally available, someone consistent, your mind says, something's missing. But your spirit says, something's finally safe. Chosen one, let me normalize this for you. When you've been trained in dysfunction, peace feels unfamiliar. The new person doesn't love bomb you. They don't overwhelm you with words and disappear later. They don't create emotional whiplash. They show up the same way, on good days and hard days. And that consistency can feel strange. You may even catch yourself thinking, why am I not anxious? Why don't I feel the rush? Why isn't this dramatic? Because drama used to signal importance. But God is teaching you. Stability is not boredom. It's safety. This part is crucial. God is not concerned with what excites your ego. He is concerned with what protects your calling. The person He wants you with may not chase attention, need validation, be overly flashy, impress crowds. But they are emotionally grounded, spiritually aware, and secure enough not to compete with your light. They don't need to dim you to feel powerful. They don't need to control you to feel chosen. They walk beside you, not ahead of you and not behind you. This connection aligns in areas your past connections never could. Timing, they don't rush what God is building. Values, their actions match their words. Integrity, who they are in private matches who they are in public. Emotional maturity, they can have hard conversations without shutting down. Spiritual alignment, they respect your relationship with God, not compete with it. And here's the key difference. Your old type made you feel chosen temporarily. This person makes you feel secure consistently. Chosen one, obsession is not intimacy. If you're not constantly checking your phone, if you're not overthinking every message, if you're not afraid to be yourself, that's not lack of chemistry. That's nervous system regulation. That's your body realizing it doesn't need to stay alert. And God cares about your peace, not just your passion. Notice how your appetite has changed. Things you once tolerated now feel unacceptable. People you once chased now feel draining. Situations you once excused now feel heavy. That's because God had to detox your discernment. You couldn't receive the right person while craving the wrong pattern. So He broke the cycle first. Not familiar like trauma. Not familiar like repetition. But familiar like home. You don't feel the need to perform. You don't feel the need to shrink. You don't feel the need to explain your worth. You feel allowed to be human. And that's when you realize your old type was attraction. This is alignment. Chosen one, if you've recently found yourself drawn to someone you normally wouldn't choose. Someone who feels calm instead of chaotic. Someone who respects your pace instead of pushing your boundaries. That is not coincidence. That is God retraining your heart for something healthier. Don't reject peace because it doesn't scream. Sometimes alignment whispers. Chosen one, your isolation wasn't punishment. It was protection. God needed your voice clear, your discernment sharp, your identity secure. Because the person He wants you with does not complete you. They walk beside you. And two incomplete people don't build kingdoms. Two whole people do. This is important. What God is bringing is not a fairy tale. It's a partnership. It requires communication, emotional responsibility, spiritual accountability, And that's why not everyone qualifies. Chosen ones attract depth, not convenience. Chosen one, this part is not about guessing. It's not about chasing signs. And it's not about forcing meaning onto emotions. When God confirms a person, He does it quietly, consistently, and without confusion. Confirmation doesn't come as anxiety. It doesn't come as obsession. It doesn't come as urgency. It comes as clarity layered over time. Let's walk through the signs many of you are already experiencing, but may not recognize yet. This is the strongest indicator. When you pray about this person, your spirit settles instead of tightens. You don't feel rushed to decide. You don't feel pushed to prove anything. You don't feel afraid of losing them if you don't perform. God does not rush what He confirms. Pressure comes from insecurity. Peace comes from alignment. If your spirit feels calm, even when the future is unknown, that is not indifference. That is trust. Chosen one, God is not a God of contradiction. So when He confirms a person, their behavior will match their speech over time. They don't overpromise and underdeliver. They don't say the right things and disappear later. They don't switch personalities depending on circumstances. They are consistent. Not perfect, but consistent. Consistency is a spiritual language. This one is subtle but powerful. You notice you're not over-clarifying your intentions. You're not defending your boundaries. You're not shrinking your truth to keep the peace. You can be honest without fear of backlash. And if conflict arises, it leads to understanding, not punishment or silence. That's not chemistry. That's emotional safety. Chosen one, be very attentive here. God will never connect you to someone who pulls you away from your calling. This person doesn't compete with your growth. They don't feel threatened by your gifts. They don't mock or minimize your spiritual path. They encourage your becoming, even when it costs them convenience. That's divine alignment. When God confirms a person, you don't lose your identity, you reclaim it. You laugh easier. You speak more freely. You don't feel like you're auditioning for acceptance. You don't abandon your values to stay connected. Instead, you feel safe enough to be fully seen. That is not emotional dependency. That is secure connection. Notice this. There's no manipulation. No love bombing. No emotional roller coaster. The bond grows naturally, through conversation, shared values, and mutual respect. You're not constantly wondering where you stand. And even when distance or time appears, the connection doesn't dissolve. What God confirms does not require control. When uncertainty shows up, your instinct is prayer, not fear. You don't spiral. You don't stalk. You don't chase reassurance. Instead, you pause. You listen. You trust. God's confirmations draw you closer to Him, not away from Him. This one often goes unnoticed at first. People comment that you seem calmer, more grounded, more yourself. Not because the person completed you, but because the connection doesn't destabilize you. Alignment produces peace that others can feel. Chosen one, hear this clearly. A person confirmed by God will respect your no. They don't punish you for limits. They don't guilt you into closeness. They don't weaponize silence. They understand that boundaries protect connection, they don't threaten it. This is the quiet confirmation many overlook. You're not desperate for labels. You're not forcing timelines. You're not trying to secure the future in fear. You're present. Because when something is built by God, it doesn't expire under patience. Chosen one, let me say this gently. Excitement fades. Chemistry fluctuates. Emotions shift. But peace remains. God's confirmations don't shout. They stabilize. And if this person brings you closer to God, closer to yourself, and closer to wholeness, pay attention. If these signs resonate deeply, not emotionally, but spiritually, then you are not imagining things. You are discerning correctly. Stay grounded. Stay prayerful. And let God continue to reveal, layer by layer. What He confirms, He protects. God may not shout the name. He whispers it through consistency, through character, through how they treat others, through how they treat you when no one is watching. The name surprises you because your spirit already knows. But your expectations were looking elsewhere. Chosen one, if you're still here, this isn't casual listening anymore. You didn't stay because you were entertained. You stayed because something in your spirit recognized truth. This is the moment where God brings closure to confusion. Not by overwhelming you with emotion, but by grounding you in clarity. Let's be honest. You didn't click this video randomly. You didn't listen this far by coincidence. And you're not just curious. You've been asking God, sometimes out loud, sometimes in silence. Who can I trust? Who belongs in my next season? Why do I feel a shift in my relationships? And God doesn't always answer with names first. He answers with discernment. This message didn't come to excite you. It came to stabilize you. Chosen one, real confirmation doesn't rush your heart. It doesn't trigger urgency. It doesn't flood you with adrenaline. It doesn't demand instant action. It settles you. You may feel calm but alert. A gentle inner yes. Less need to overthink. Less desire to seek external validation. That's the difference between emotional reaction and spiritual confirmation. God doesn't shout to be heard. He whispers to be trusted. Notice something. The panic is gone. The mental spirals have slowed. The urgency to label or decide has eased. You're not stuck. You're not unsure. You're positioned. Waiting doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means alignment is in motion. And God does His best work in stillness. This is important. God didn't bring you this clarity just to point out someone else. He brought it to show you who you've become. You now discern instead of chase. Observe instead of assume. Pray instead of panic. Trust instead of control. That's growth. That's maturity. That's preparation. And only a prepared heart can steward divine connection. Chosen one, release the need to rush. You don't need to send a message. You don't need to make a move. You don't need to demand clarity. What is from God will not pass you by. If it's aligned, it will unfold. If it's confirmed, it will remain. If it's not, it will fade without breaking you. God does not tease His children with false hope. Questions will always exist. Peace is the anchor. You may not know the full timeline. You may not know the exact outcome. You may not know how it all unfolds. But you know this. You're no longer confused. You're no longer desperate. You're no longer seeking signs everywhere. That's confirmation. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not difficult to love. You are discerning. You are growing. And you are being protected from what no longer fits. God is not withholding. He is refining. And refinement always precedes alignment. If this part resonates deeply, not emotionally, but inwardly, this is your confirmation to rest. Let God finish what He started. Let clarity continue to unfold. Let peace guide your steps. You don't need louder science. You don't need external approval. You already heard what you needed to hear. Stay open. Stay prayerful. And stay grounded. What God confirms, He sustains. And what He is aligning in your life right now will not require you to lose yourself to receive it. Chosen one, before you go, don't rush past this moment. Not everything needs an immediate response. But some moments require recognition. And this is one of them. If this message found you at the exact time you needed clarity, if it strengthened you when you felt uncertain, if it spoke to your spirit in a way only heaven could orchestrate, then pause for just a second, because I want to speak directly to the givers, the ones whose hearts are sensitive, the ones who understand spiritual exchange, the ones who feel called, not pressured, to pour back into the vessel that pours into them. If your spirit feels led, I invite you to sow a $1 seed into this channel. Not because God needs money, and not because this word is for sale, but because giving is a spiritual law. A seed, no matter how small, carries obedience. and obedience carries alignment. And God multiplies what is given with pure intention. Your $1 helps keep this ministry alive. It keeps these messages flowing. And it helps this word reach the next chosen one who may be right where you once were, confused, seeking, and praying for confirmation. If you feel that gentle nudge in your spirit, that quiet pull that doesn't shout but invites, you can plant your $1 seed using the link in the description. And hear me clearly. If you can't give, if you don't feel led, if this is not your season to sow, you are still loved, still seen, still covered. This message is not conditional. The blessing is not withheld. And God's favor is not transactional. Blessings to every giver. Blessings to every listener. And blessings to every chosen one walking this path with sincerity. Your seed, whether financial, spiritual, or simply your time, moves heaven in ways you may never see. But God sees it all. Stay grounded. Stay discerning. And trust what God is aligning.